The single is absolutely amazing. I mean, this you guys have got to be proud of what you guys have put together here.
Well, I
I
am.
sure am. I mean, look, if I could speak to it for a minute, since Marina wrote it, composed it, initiated it, and just invited me in as a guest, I thought it was a fantastic track. When people ask me to play on things, which I don't do that often,
Right.
usually when I play on something, it's something that I'm part of creating or writing. And so to be a guest on something, first of all, I have to like it. It has to be something that resonates with me. It doesn't even have to be metal. In this case, it can be symphony and metal. And it just has to be something that I think is cool, So and then Marina and I have known each other probably a good 20, 25 years or something. So it came from a reputable source. And I think for me, what I liked, knowing Marina from back in the 2000s when she was actually a client of mine when I ran artist relations for Peavey, to just see the growth, that has happened in Marina and in not only just your career, but your skills and the people you've affiliated with, and she always aspiring to bigger things, people who lift us up, because that's how it works. And so by the time, this track showed up in the studio to me, I was like, whoa, this is a masterful composition. So I'm certainly proud to be a part of it.
Thank you, thank you.
Um, Marina, you David just mentioned it. You guys have known each other for a long, long time. Was it your idea to bring? And we'll talk about Bruce in a minute, but was it your idea to bring Dave onto the single, or whose idea was it? And with how long you guys have known each other, were you at all nervous about bringing the song to him to ask him to come on to the single, or was did that make it easier?
First of all, I wasn't nervous. I've known David for a couple of decades now, and he's always been nothing but kind and nice in spite of, all metal badassness. You're just an awesome person, David. And I knew the worst case scenario is that, you know what, I don't have time. You would probably never even tell me that he didn't like it. So I'm like, he'll let me down easy if he doesn't want to do it. I don't have time. As a matter of fact, but you were on tour, so we waited for you for a few months to come back, which is totally fine. Uh, I used to hurry a lot and like, okay, we need to get it done now, now, now. And now I'm at the point of my life, I'm like, if it's meant to happen, it will happen. And, so it all kind of fell into place. So anyway, but we've known each other for over 20 years and have never recorded together until this song. But David
It's
did make an
crazy.
appearance as a cameo, as a lip syncing cameo in my music video, Born to the Stars, along with Bruce Kulick, who is on the record, and Steel Panther, and like Animotion and Jill Sobule, some amazing my artist friends from all genres. But anyway, but my husband, co-writer Nick, is a longtime metalhead, and he has been a fan of David and Megadeth and Kiss for a long, 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 long time. So I've known, I've gotten to know your music, David, your artistry through my husband, who introduced me to the whole world of hard rock and metal. So it was
Yeah.
but because I've known you now, we just sat down and like, who should we ask to be our guest star on bass? And we're like,
Mhm.
immediately, you, David.
Nice.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
At what point in the process did Bruce and Dave come in? Was the song completely written and ready to go? Was it early in the stages? At what point did you guys come on board, Dave?
Yeah, I think the song was written. The basic tracks were put down. The drums, what I got was drums, piano. Um, Bruce, I can't remember. Was Bruce a solo on this track yet? I can't remember. By the
When I
time
first sent it to you, no, it
it
wasn't there
wasn't.
yet.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so we just sent you a demo just to see if you liked it, if you would be interested in doing that.
right.
And then you wanted to be last anyway to record your bass so you could do the final touches to the song, right?
Yeah, people think that's so strange that you would play bass last, but for me, um, Look, if it's I've written some hard driving songs that the bass kind of drives it, well, then you want it to be first because it's along with the drums is probably carving the path of the track. Something like this, is a piano vocal track for sure, and the drums, of course, kind of frame up the house, if you will, and sort of give a structure to it. And I played a lot to the drums, quite honestly, because when the breaks happen, when the drums stop, we all stop, right? And
We
then
all
the
stop.
gong, 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 right? Those are really kind of cool, accents to hit. God on down, bow now, then we're heading into the chorus. So there's things that I like to have in place because I think they allow for a better bass performance. And something like this, there's a lot of space, and I think when we're younger, we think that if we can just shred and play all this fast stuff, which of course is challenging as well, but sometimes the most challenging things to do from an artistic point of view is to play less, allow room for space, allow things to breathe, knowing that there was going to be this vocal on top, this story being told. You as a musical performer on the track, you want to get out of the way of that and let that breathe. And so for me as a bass player, the more pieces that I have of the structure put together, I know where I can maybe put a lick in that would enhance. You know where to get out of the way to let something else come through. So, I appreciate it being, mostly done for me to, write my chart and then go in the studio and take the track.
Nice. Marina, lyrically, it's powerful. The lyrics are awesome. And yes, and you've written a song that's heavy, not just musically but lyrically as well. Can you talk about where a lot of these, just the overall theme of the song came from, where it was inspired, and just what it was like sitting down and writing these lyrics out? Because man, I listened to it again this morning. The lyrics are amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I write a lot of songs as a personal therapy of sorts. I've struggled with depression throughout my whole life. So music has been that incredible way of channeling whatever is happening with me, psychologically and emotionally. And this is one of those songs too, was kind of to help me process life because as we know, life is full of kind of, joys and pains, and we got to choose what to really focus on because it's very easy for me at least to drown in pain and the sad parts because for really any given human, right? We go through so much. Life throws at us crazy curves, and you just have to face it and not dwell on the negative. It's okay to mourn. Like my dad died 4 years ago. It was really, really hard time for me. But at the same time, for me personally, I 5 years ago gave birth to my little daughter. So that was incredible. So just trying to really concentrate on the positive and be truly grateful and be not afraid to just move forward, like all of these things. The song's about life, and so that's kind of what inspired it all. But funny enough, Nick and I, my husband and I, wrote it 10 years ago, and then we reworked it recently because something just didn't feel right. Can't quite explain it. Sometimes songwriting, like any creative things, is like I can't quite understand how that happens. But we wrote it and then we rewrote it, and it felt right to release it.
Nice. What was it like working with Bruce on this, and when did he come into play for the single, and for both of you, what was like working with him on the single?
Well, David, first of all, talk about Bruce, and you guys have known each other for a long time as well.
We have. And it's funny, I listened to the track last night in my car. I was driving home. Uh, and when the solo came, it just hit me. What a great soloist Bruce is. He was in that, the unmasked era of Kiss, which has
Yeah.
its own controversies. And Ace Frehley, of course, becomes the benchmark by which my generation measured everything because that was our age when we got introduced to Kiss. And then,
Right.
during Bruce's era, there was a whole other generation, the 80s Kiss fans. I was a 70s Kiss fan, and then he was the 80s into even the early 90s. So he has a whole different fan base. But
Yeah.
it's funny how he's such a skilled musician, and I remember when he came through town, he played here in Phoenix with Grand Funk Railroad, and that was the last time I saw him, just last year, right before he had left the band, and maybe the band is even retired now at this point. But so I saw probably one of his later performances, one of his last performances with Grand Funk, who is another band who I love, kind of almost a
Yeah.
generation ahead of me, I guess, kind of in the 70s thing. So, it's funny. I've seen Bruce mostly in these sort of legacy classic rock outfits. We did a rock and roll fantasy camp event together out in on the Big Island in Hawaii, and even that was mostly older guys, Elliot Easton from the Cars, Mark Hudson, Kelly Keagy from Night Ranger. So again, kind of a generation or a half generation ahead of me. I was like the youngster in the outfit, so but Bruce, to see, it's one thing about working like the fantasy camp and things like that. You get to see people sort of really come to life in their other skill set, because in bands we work within the confines of what we do. Like even Elliot Easton, I was used to these short, explosive bursts of these just killer guitar solos. He didn't play anything like that on the fantasy camp. He was like this. He was into the Who and the Beatles and all this 60s stuff. I'm like, where's this guy? So it was great to get to know him in that setting, and you become musical friends with these guys. So
Mhm.
it's, I think, probably the hardest thing um, on any recording is, you're not really having a conversation in the room. You've sort of, when Marina sends me the track, here's her statement. It's like voice texting, right? She sends this statement, then
Mhm.
I play my part and I text it back to her. Okay, here's my response to that. So, when you're trading files, because we're pros and we do this all the time, recording is a different science and an art all in unto itself. And it takes a while to get used to recording without people in the room and kind
Yeah.
of feeling that energy, because as my friend Max Norman, who I did a lot of records with, he calls it the musical conversation.
Nice
And it,
accent.
it right, it is. Well, he's British, right? He's from the Midlands, right?
I
But
love that.
and it's I've taken that from a podcast me and Max did, because it's so true to that there, it's a different process, and we've, Marina, myself, Bruce, we've all made these records where, okay, it's time for your part, and again, that's probably the best way to it's like emailing or texting with each other, rather than just getting on the phone and having a chat where you can hear all the ums and, well, I don't know, and kind of like, sort of, a couple of coughs and a belch or here and there, you know what I mean? Like
Belch.
yeah, a belch. You get all the color of the conversation, so and because sometimes there's, I remember with Nick Menz in Megadeth, a lot of his, he would literally make a mistake, or he'd go for a fill and he'd screw it up, or he didn't come out of it the way he wanted. And oftentimes they, whoa, what did you just do? That was awesome. And he goes, I don't freaking know. It was a mistake. I did. And fortunately, we learned to start recording things, rehearsals,
Yes.
and, so, as songwriters, as composers, sometimes it's harder to compose with a bunch of people in the room, but not always, because sometimes things will go in a totally different direction. Like you, Marina, I met you, and then you and Nick got together. As best I remember, right? You guys got married after that. And
No, actually, we married before that.
oh,
Yeah.
you were okay.
Uh-huh.
I didn't
Uh-huh.
see him around. He was letting you drag your piano around Nam all by yourself. So anyway, but it's interesting how, as then I got to know, so I kind of knew you as just yourself, and then when Nick became, it seemed like he became more maybe involved in some of the composing and writing, or as least as I understood it. I started to even see a different course and a different path, even in the songs you were writing, leading up to obviously this one. And it's interesting that the song's 10 years old. Sometimes great
Mhm.
songs aren't ready for a great moment yet, and they just sit in the back burner. We put them up on the shelf, and, we one day we'd find an old tape. I used to have this tape of a bunch of literally sitting right here by my desk, by my window. For 20 years, it was riffs that I brought in for the Countdown to Extinction record that we didn't never used, right? And they sat there, and one day I took them into my band F5, and which was tuned down. It was younger guys, new musical sensibilities. Suddenly, a bunch of those riffs made it to the album, because we performed them with a different tuning, a different era, a different mindset. So I relate when a song's been sitting on the shelf for 10 years and finally it finds its light of day in 2025. It happens a lot in our line of work.
That's crazy. I was talking to Eric from Eric Bass from Shinedown a few weeks ago, and he
Mhm.
said the kind of the same thing. The solo record he has coming out in a few weeks has been done for a really, 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 really long time. It's just been sitting around, and he kind of compared it to it being one of his children, where he's had it for so long, and now it's out in the world, and he's preparing to release it into the world. And he kind of used that analogy, and I've never really thought about it that way. A lot of fans don't realize how often a song or a record will be sitting around and on the shelf for a long time, with the artist really working on it, developing it, then releasing it out into the public, and it's been developed for a long time. I don't think
Well,
fans really think about that.
I heard Appetite for Destruction from Guns N' Roses was the same thing. I mean, I remember living in Hollywood at that time, and
Yeah.
there was a buzz about them, and they were working on this album. It seemed like forever, and I'd heard that, and this may not even be true, but I'd heard that David Geffen had heard it, and he sort of put it on the shelf until it was ready. It's like the world isn't ready for this yet. This is so
Right.
great that the world is not ready. You know what I mean? So there just has to be a moment where. I can imagine being a young, broke, starving artist going, "Oh my God, what's our label going to do? Are they going to can it? Are they going to drop us?" So I don't know if those guys had those same kind of feelings about it, but when you have something that you're like, "I want to get this out now," Marina, I'm the same way. It's like, let's just go, let's just do it, and you know, um, usually people around us help either kind of redirect or sometimes pull us back a little bit and just go, let's take a little more time with this and or let's find the right time with it, to put something out. So,
Hmm.
because look, let's face it, part of this is creating something. The other part of it is marketing it and putting it out so that it actually doesn't fall on deaf ears, that it falls on fresh ears that are ready to hear something like this. And that's when I heard your song here, Marina, I thought that I was like, whoa, I just got done playing thrash metal all last year with King's Thrash and Dieth and Overkill, and then all of a sudden I hear this song. I'm like, now this is something new. This I could be into this. I could use the. This is like I had fresh ears for it. So I was like, I think this is cool. This sits well in my world.
I want to ask you, Marina, working with your husband for so long, how has that helped you as an artist and with your creativity? How has that helped? And what is that dynamic like for you guys?
Well, he and I have been together for now 2.5 decades. And he is a drummer. He comes from the rock world. So like the things you mentioned, the pre-chorus, boom, boom. My piano's not on. Boom, boom. That was his idea. I would have never written that, but we were writing the song together and said, "Hey, how about this?" I'm like, "Yes." So we're true symphony and metal. I come from a classical world of music.
Hmm.
I grew up in Russia, being went to classical school of music, learned classical piano, listened to a lot of Tchaikovsky and Mozart, and he is from a different world. And we really, when we were writing symphony and metal, it had multiple layers, including the beauty of life and the toughness of life. Yet symphony is me and metal is him. So it's been great because we great collaboration because we pull from different worlds, and he's actually a great lyricist. Some of those lyrics are Nick's. He is amazing. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's I've been married for going on 10 years, and I can never imagine working with my wife that closely for that long. We would kill each other. So,
It's funny that you
um,
mentioned because I just have to say we've toured a lot. We've done a lot of tours, and we would be like in a car for 14 hours or whatever, and playing together and unloading together and doing everything together. And people would often say, like, how do you do it? How do you not get injured?
Yeah,
It just, we work. It's one of those rare things that I'm incredibly grateful for, because we know plenty of cases where people would not want to be with their spouses 24/7. But
that's.
it's been just, incredible. It just happened by fate, I guess.
I got a random question for you, Marina. How do you How does working on a Pepsi commercial come to be? How does that happen? And what is that like? That blows me away. What is that process like? How does that happen?
Well, actually, so Pepsi, getting a song in a commercial is extremely competitive market,
Yeah,
because there are agencies who deal with entities like Pepsi, and there's a whole, like, very just difficult market for that. In my case, I have gone to a handful of conferences for where artists and musicians can meet people like creative executive from brands like Pepsi. And I literally just met the woman who was running the entertainment division of Pepsi, and she just loved my music, and she said, but there's nothing really for you at the moment. She said, however, like a year later, she emails me out of the blue, said, hey, can you do a 30-second rock song with a male vocalist? I'm like, yes, I can. So Nick and I wrote a 35-second song, and actually Bruce Kulick helped us with it to find the vocalist, because I needed
really.
like a vocalist, and I didn't really know many who could like do it super quickly. And yeah, anyway, so that's how it came to be. And it was just like that, just I randomly met, but I didn't randomly. I mean, I sought it out. So it's all of the stuff that we musicians do. I mean, we work really hard for all these things, because it's so like that was years in the making of like me going to conferences, meeting people, giving them my music, So anyway, that's how it happened. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm, I want to know about Labyrinth Rose that's going to be coming up. What can you tell me about that, David? Are you guys on anything else on the record, or is it just this one song?
Just
What
this
can
one
you?
song. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay. What can you guys tell me about the record, though? Just in general, is there more stuff like symphony and metal on this record, or
Nope. No. And the thing is, at first I was thinking about like, oh, is it weird to have something so different? I don't care. It sounds awesome. It called for that. No other songs call for heavier elements. So that's what we're doing. But we have a lot of orchestration on other songs. Steve Horner, the composer who did the just brilliant strings on Symphony and Metal, he's producing and doing orchestration and strings on a lot of other songs. So
okay?
we have that component to tie it together. But yeah, this is the heaviest and most unusual song for me. And, it just felt right. And, if people are disappointed, I'm sorry, but that there are no more songs like that. But maybe down the road, I don't know. But I
Right,
certainly am
right.
enjoying this. This is a really fun sound for me. And I think it sounds really cool. So maybe down the road, we can do some more stuff like that. I would love to. Actually,
Yeah.
yeah, I just made up my mind. I would like to. Yes.
It's official. It has to happen now.
There you go. Once you say it on a podcast, that's it. It's over. Now it's
That's it.
It's out.
stamped. Exactly.
It's just like making it Facebook official. It's a thing. It's on a podcast. It's happening now. Um, David, I want to ask you a random question here.
Sure.
I can't remember what year it was, but on WWE's Monday Night Raw, they at one time, maybe 2016 or 17, they had something called the Symphony of Destruction match. Throughout
Okay.
that entire match, Corey Graves on commentary was just dropping random Megadeth references, quoting random song titles. When you hear that something like that has happened with material that you've been a part of,
Mhm.
what does that make you? How does that make you feel? What does that do for you?
I'm not familiar with that one. I'm glad you brought that to my attention, though, because
Thank you.
wrestling. It's funny. Back in 1999, when we did the Risk album, we did that
Goldberg.
video. Yeah, Crush 'em. Yeah, for Goldberg,
Yep.
which was the WCW, and we actually played on the
Yes.
WCW at the stadium down there in Atlanta.
I grew up on
Um,
WCW. That was my thing. I
yeah, right.
remember
So
I
right?
remember when you guys were on Monday Nitro and
Right.
yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so that was cool. It's fun to get invited, I guess, like Marina with a Pepsi commercial. You're sort of
Yeah.
out of your element. You're pulled over into something cool, doing late night TV and all this kind of stuff. But the ones I probably get that are the funnest for me, the really fun ones, because they're super mainstreamers, like when they talk about one of our songs or something about Megadeth on Jeopardy. It's just, that's the official Wikipedia. You got to know your shit, in order to get the prize right, in order to get the answer right. So I always love those. People will just kind of screen cap it and text it to me and go, dude, you guys were on Jeopardy last night, So, I'm always like, well, did they get the answer right? Or like, who was it? Was it like some guy who knows, like Reggie, or is it just the housewife from Iowa is like, Megadeth? What the hell is Megadeth? What's that? Not that they talk like that in Iowa, because they don't, but
Right. I'm from there. We don't.
yeah, yeah. I'm from
Everybody here in
Minnesota and
Indiana
I
thinks
know that.
that's
I
everyone
know, I
from
know.
here in Indiana thinks that's Idaho, by the way, for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the potato state. I'm like, no, we're in the Big Ten with you. How do you not know this?
Yeah. My mom is from Iowa, that's why I know. They talk more like
Nice.
Fargo. She talked more like Fargo, so.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's the state that everybody knows about, but also doesn't know about at the same time.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
weirdest
If
thing.
it weren't for Slipknot, the thing would be pretty much unknown in the rock
This
community,
is true. This
They've
is
put it on the
true.
Slipknot.
map.
There we go.
Thank you,
Um,
Slipknot.
I got to ask you guys for both of you. I mean, David, you guys have known each other for so long. I guess this question is for both of you. When you sit back and listen to the final product of Symphony and Metal, what does this song mean to you guys, especially with the relationship that you guys have had for so long, to be able to finally have something you guys have played on together? What does the song, the single, mean to you guys?
For me, and again, it's on fresh ears, just even hearing it last night, was, I think, Marina, when you sing I Am Symphony and I Am Metal, that it's sort of like, to me, everybody has a masculine and a feminine, right? And in particular, as we've done some interviews here around this song, it's reminded me that when you write an emotional lyric, you're tapping into more of your feminine side, right? Feminine being just, not the tough, macho, fight or flight kind of guy. Because, look, there's
Vulnerable,
times when
perhaps.
you write certain metal and it's we're not gonna take it. That's the masculine side. You know what I mean? We're here to fight. So we've got both sides in this, and it hit me, Marina, when you're talking about mental stuff, right? That it's like, I think as writers we naturally go there because we expose that very vulnerable side to ourselves, that if you're not sort of in the creative world, you can kind of protect that, and I know, even like when I was going to college, when I worked for PV, that was kind of more of this right brain, more administrative. I'd have to find opportunities to sort of go. F5 became one of those for me during that era, where I could get in the room with the guys and sort of open up the left brain, and I think I'm saying that right, the creative side anyway, and just kind of open that up, and it needed to come out, and suddenly I would just sort of, barf out riff after song, because it was sort of encapsulated and protected over here in this right brain part of my day, so I think that for me, that's kind of what the song symbolizes a bit. I think just sort of the emotion of it, that you can be strong, yet you can also be sensitive. Symphony, I played tenor sax in the orchestra band growing up, so I kind of sat in the middle of the orchestra. The flutes were the lead guitar players up in front, and behind me were the drums and the,
I was
bass.
trombone.
Okay, so yeah, so right, so the brass, the trombone, baritone kind of sat by the saxophones, blah blah blah. So we were kind of in the middle of the orchestra
Yep.
a little bit. And so thinking about Symphony, it was because I just wanted to play Kiss and BTO and heavy metal and hard rock. I didn't pay much. I didn't give much accolade to orchestra and symphony music. And then as I started traveling the world, and I realized that before you could plug anything into an amplifier, Wolfgang Mozart, that was the Judas Priest of the day. That was the heavy stuff, and these guys, Bach, these guys, they were really, and they would have to kind of do the whole range, I guess, maybe if they were playing for the king or I don't know, the aristocrats or whatever they would have to play, for a variety of different people, but their art the songs that they reflected was, that was the instruments that they had at that time to sort of get those, gug, 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 gum, bum, 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 ba. That's like Enter Sandman of that era.
Yeah,
That was about as heavy as it got.
yeah.
So, so I guess, for me, working, I think, with a keyboard composer like Marina, and then having Steve's orchestrations and strings and things like that. You're able to kind of cover the full range of the spectrum and not just have it be just okay. We're just going to play loud guitars through loud amplifiers. Because sometimes it's harder to be more um, not emotional, but it's sometimes the dynamic. It's harder. It's harder. It's more difficult to be dynamic in that setting. Whereas with this song, the dynamics, just by nature, I think even recording the track, it just brings out a sort of sentiment.
Sure.
You could be symphony and metal while recording even the bass part. Which was my sort of 4 minutes that I had in the song.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And Marina, for you, what is having this song out and honestly, all of the attention that it's getting, being able to have the song with you and David together, then throwing Bruce in, like, what does this single mean to you? And honestly, what does the Labyrinth Rose record that's coming out soon mean for you as the artist?
Well, symphony and metal, it came, from my personal place, but 10 years ago, and then as reworking it, I felt like I wrote a song back then for my time right now. It is the weirdest thing. I feel it more deeply than when I started writing it. But the thing is, that's the beauty of art, right? There's not one way of seeing it or feeling it. Even for me, who wrote the song, there are different days when I find something in it that helps me through the day.
Mhm.
Um, it's so symphony and metal can mean many, many things, and that is incredible, even for me. But people who have heard it now and they tell me how they feel, how it helps them to fight on, whether it's obstacles in life or depression like me. Um, it's just beautiful to see how differently people can perceive it and how it can help them in any way to feel less alone in their struggles and their pain and to help them, you know, live to fight another day. So that's beautiful. And hearing people's stories when they tell me they how they feel about the song and how it affects them, it's just incredible. That's, as an artist, that's the best thing in the world, really, to
Mhm.
get that sort of feedback. And the album Labyrinth and Rose is going to be a collection of songs. Most of them are newer songs from last 3 years. So a lot of them have to do with just overcoming tough times and inner demons as well, because those mother truckers don't leave us alone, do they?
I love it. I want to hear the record. I want to hear the rest of the music. So whenever it is ready to send over to people, I want to hear it. I want to review it. I want to check it out. I absolutely love this single. You guys have something really special with Symphony and Metal. You have something really special that I think is going to reach and touch a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And to me, it's like the perfect example of what art really is what this single is. You guys have just absolutely knocked it out of the park with this one.
Oh, thank you, Reggie. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you so much.